Hey everybody, and welcome to the Saturday edition of the Paranormal Portal. How you guys doing tonight? Thank you all for joining me here on the show, and hope you guys are having a great evening. And thank you so much for spending part of your weekend right here with me. I can't think of a more amazing thing than to see so many of you come in the door as soon as the lights come on. That's just awesome. So thank you so much, and hope I've pulled together a great show for you. I mean, that's always my objective coming into these things, and usually I think we do pretty good, but I might be a little biased. But I hope you guys enjoy the shows, and if you do, please make sure to get subscribed if you're not already, and like the stream, and let other people know. Be sure to share it out to your social media. That goes a long way into helping to spread the news about the Paranormal Portal. And remember, we have, John says, we camp outside all the time. So you mean you never went home? You were just here? No, that's fine. Thank you, John. I appreciate the love and support. And from all of you, thank you so much. So Sheldon wanted to pass on his apologies that he wasn't able to join tonight. He just had so many things going on. Real life happens. And so, of course, he couldn't make it tonight, but he wanted to make sure I gave everybody his love and tell you all hello. So I'm telling you all hello from Sheldon. And yeah, he's doing good. I talked to him tonight, and he just got swamped and has got to take care of some things. So I understand. Real life does happen, unfortunately. It's not all just the portal life for all of us, but we do what we can. Hi, Father Mike. Good to see you. Hi, Elaine. Hi, Virgil Bowman. Good to meet you. That's a new name, I think. I don't think I've met you before, Virgil, but thanks for coming in and checking it out. Operation Aqua underway. Package en route. Thank you. Outstanding, Father Mike. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome deal. So we got a bunch of fun, enjoyable paranormal weirdness ready for you guys tonight. So I hope you're ready to be entertained. Just also want to make sure on the top of the show to mention this, because still get a lot of confusion from people like, hey, I was on YouTube and checked out the podcast and I liked it. And I appreciate that. But these, I know a lot of shows call their YouTube streams podcasts, and they probably are. They're just airing their podcast actually on their YouTube. And so it is one and the same, but for this show, it's two very different things completely. There isn't just one show going on that I split two ways, one audio feed and just a video feed. This is just the YouTube live shows, which are usually set up to be just kind of variety shows. We just cover a variety of topics, have fun, relax, kick back, and dive into the phenomena. But the Paranormal Portal podcast is an audio only format, and you'll find it on several different platforms. I think all of them, to be honest with you, wherever you can catch podcasts, whether it's on your phone, through your phone, Android phone or iPhone in the podcast app, you'll find us in both of those. That's Google and iTunes. And you'll find us on iHeartRadio. You'll find us on Pandora, Spotify. There's Stitcher, Castbox. There's all kinds of them. There's even platforms I had never heard of before, which are awesome. I mean, it's amazing. And so that's where you find the Paranormal Portal podcast. If you're seeing images along with it, it's probably not our podcast. You're probably watching the YouTube show. And those are, again, two very different things. So I'd love to get some, your support over there on the podcast as well. It's generally a much bigger show than this as far as, views, downloads, participation and such. But I love doing this as well because this feels more, what do I want to say? How do I want to say it? This feels like we're connecting. I love doing these shows because it's live, it's unrehearsed. There's no editing. It's just what you see is what you get. All of my screw ups are right on the surface, and there's usually a few of them in every show. And sometimes they're amazingly a big part of the show. But this is just us getting together, talking about the phenomena. And I like that. I like the chance to connect with you guys, to see what you're writing in the chat, or to hear your call-ins if you call into the show. Those things for me are just amazing. So I love this show, even though it's a much smaller show than our podcast. It to me is just really cool because it's our ability to connect. And for me to connect with you guys, for you guys to connect with me, and for us to have this community. So, but I just want to clarify, these are two very different shows. Sometimes we do take a YouTube show, like if we've had a guest on or something, and port it over to the podcast. That happens from time to time. Or if there's just an exceptional episode that I feel like, wow, I want to share this with our podcast audience, I'll do that as well. But generally speaking, they are two very different shows. So it's a community here. You're right, John. It is. I think it is anyway. Same boat, Lars. Almost better. Oh, I'm sorry if you guys are not feeling well. I'll put something in the mail to Brent. Oh, yeah. Making it sound more interesting. It is interesting, Father Mike. It's plenty interesting. There's no need to embellish. I'm excited to get it. I'm really pumped. Thank you so much. But at Brent, we don't judge your mistakes. Well, that's, and that's the other part of it. With a live show like this, when you make a mistake, you got to own it. I mean, sometimes I'm an absolute idiot on the show, but I think that's fun. It's fun to be not only trying to entertain you guys, but to also show you, hey, I'm just a human being. I'm just an idiot with a microphone, but I'm absolutely thrilled you guys are here. So I'm not into trying to appear like I've got things all figured out. I don't. But I love this stuff. I just love this stuff. And remember, throughout the course of the show, especially after the news, the phone lines are open, so I'd love to hear from you if you want to call in and be a part of the show. You've got something paranormal that had happened or is happening, and you want to share it, by all means, please do. The number is right on the screen in my lower third. Special thanks to Wes Germer for that. That looks amazing still, always does. The call-in number is 720-923-0500. 720-923-0500. So love to hear from you if you got something paranormal to talk about, and even if it's just an opinion on something we're discussing. That's fine too. Again, I don't have all the answers. So, hi, Sugar Britches. Good to see you. Great to see all you guys coming in. Thank you so much. Great to see you. Yeah, I like idiots with microphones. Thanks, Lars. And Brent, you're not an idiot. I appreciate that. But you know what? Everybody's an idiot sometimes. And oftentimes I'm an idiot right here on my show. And it's okay because I have fun with it. I'm not like one of those people, I don't like myself. I do. I like being me. I really do. And I embrace my stupidity as much as my brilliance and everything in between. You know, so I mean, we've all got a little of all of it. So, yeah, no worries. I'm okay with it. But I'm an idiot all the time, John says. Nobody's an idiot all the time, John. Even a stop clock is right 2 times a day. So just remember that. You got that going for you. So at least twice a day. Everybody's going to be right. So anyway, my hubby is Virgil. Okay, gotcha. Well, good to meet you, hubby Virgil. Welcome to the show, and thanks for coming in and making this a family affair. That didn't sound right at all, did it? So, see, there's the idiot. There it is. Surfaced just in time. So, yeah. Anyway, let's get to the first juncture of our evening on the show here. Oh, hi, Jason. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Great to see you. I appreciate that. And hello to everybody here. I'll try to do shout outs a little bit later after we get through the news here. So I got 17 minutes to cover the news. No, now 16 minutes and 58 seconds before the break. So let's do some news and see just what I've curated for your benefit here. Hang on. We're going in. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal News Desk. I'm your anchor, Brent Thomas, and this is the Paranormal Portal News. So hopefully you've got some news that you maybe never heard before. Again, what my objective with the news is not always to give you the latest breaking news, but just that you leave here knowing something you didn't know before. And maybe something you didn't want to know, but you're going to know it anyway. Because we need to be informed. With knowledge comes power. And some of these shows, I don't know how the knowledge of them is going to make you powerful, but I didn't come up with the saying. I'm regurgitating it. But here it is. The first article up for tonight's show is from unexplained-mysteries.com. And this is a great site, first of all. Please support what they're doing. Go visit them. I love this site. Truly do love it. They just have such great encapsulated news from a whole bunch of different topic areas, and I know you're going to love it too. So, but the first one up is Pentagon can't explain half of 2022's UFO cases, new file shows. Well, good. Neither can we. Welcome to the club, Pentagon. A recently released document has revealed how many of last year's UFO cases remain unexplained. The newly declassified 11-page report, which was filed by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, or ODNI, sounds cooler, details a total of 566 sightings of UFO or UAPs. Of these, 366 were added in 2022, of which 195 of them have been classified as explained, while the other 171 remain uncharacterized and unattributed, mainly due to a lack of available data. Oh, really? Like what? You don't know who's driving them or where they came from? That would be data you probably would need. So I don't know about the 171 other ones. I mean, yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, there is new technologies in the sky all the time, and oftentimes they look different than things that we're used to seeing. I mean, we're used to seeing planes, helicopters, and now drones. I think people are becoming accustomed to seeing those kind of things, but there's still new technologies that are probably happening in the skies. A lot of times, like some of those rocket launches that left those weird spiral patterns were pretty surprising for a lot of people because we'd never seen them before. And so it's not surprising that people jump to, well, it's got to be a UFO. I've never seen that. Yeah, because it is. It's a UFO is unidentified flying object. If there's something in the air that you can't identify, by virtue of that, it is a UFO. That doesn't mean it's extraterrestrial or it's otherworldly at all. It just means it's unidentified. So I'm glad they were able to explain away some of it. And did they really? I don't know, but it's I guess an assurance that they are able to at least attribute some of it to natural or technological advances. But the Pentagon, not the Pentagon, has been a lot more open about its investigations into the phenomena in recent months, and this report shows that it is still very much committed to continuing this trend. Why would you get that idea? I mean, it's only 11 pages, for God's sakes. It's not like they just opened all the files. They gave us 11 pages. I couldn't even have wrapped a Christmas present for the Minion with 11 pages. So it's not like they gave us a wealth of information for a whole year or something. But anyway, most of the 195 explained reports from this last year turned out to be mundane things, including 163 that were determined to be balloons or balloon-like entities, and 26 which turned out to be drones. Some of them were a little more than birds or plastic bags being blown by the wind. Those darn bags. 171 unexplained cases, meanwhile, are far more interesting, with several of them still being under investigation, and each typically involving an object or objects moving in unconventional ways. The majority of the reports appear to have been submitted by military personnel. The document does not, however, suggest that any of the objects are extraterrestrial in nature. Well, there's a shocker. They didn't even admit that, even in terms of the Tic Tacs, which even from trained Navy pilots were doing things that shouldn't have been possible. So for them to look at that and go, well, we don't know what it is, but we're not saying it's alien. Well, no, but what are you saying then? You're saying you don't know. So even to add that assertion or that disclaimer isn't really a disclaimer, because you can't not say that either. So it's kind of how they placate people without really saying anything. It's like a word game, so that's the first article tonight. I don't know. I don't think much of anything has changed, and I don't think much of anything will change, because I think the big takeaway is that they don't know. And that in and of itself should be concerning, because these are people that should have access to information from every developmental area there is. And if they still cannot know, then that's something. And I don't know if it needs to be concerning, but it's definitely saying a lot that they don't know. Or in some cases, maybe they don't want to say, and that could be some of it too. Maybe it is advanced projects that they can't officially acknowledge. That's a possibility as well. But some of it may very well be from out of this world, or a different version of this world than what we know anyway. So just some thoughts. They're still at it, and at least they're doing some press releases instead of saying people are strange and need to take their meds or wear the helmets or whatever. But I don't know. It's anybody's guess. So let's get to the next one. And this one is also from unexplained-mysteries.com. This is the second story tonight. And the second story tonight is, I don't know. Is this going to be really long? No, it's actually not. Okay. Well, it's another shocking title, actually. And it is from unexplained-mysteries.com. What is the quantum apocalypse, and should we be worried? I don't know. It sounds freaky. I don't know. Is that a good thing? Any kind of apocalypse? Is that a good thing? TK Randall reports, January 14th, 2023, some scientists believe that existing forms of data security and encryption will soon become obsolete. The so-called quantum apocalypse is not a typical end-of-the-world scenario, okay, good, but a potential point in time at which a quantum computers become so powerful that existing methods of encryption for everything from your computer password to your bank account will become ineffectual. It won't matter how strong your password is or how well it is encrypted. A sufficiently powerful quantum computer could be able to crack it within seconds. Wow. The evolution of quantum computers creates a significant threat to data security. Tim Callahan, Chief Experience Officer at cybersecurity company Sectigo, told the Mail Online. Their immense processing power is capable of breaking encryption at great speed, leaving important data vulnerable, everything from bank account details to medical records to state secrets. But could such a scenario actually happen, and how much of an apocalypse would it be? What those warning of this eventuality fail to take into account is the likelihood that encryption technologies will likely also evolve to become more sophisticated as well. Yeah, that's what I was thinking as I was reading. It's like, well, yeah, but it's not like the bad guys are going to have quantum computers and nobody else is. So they'll just develop new encryption technologies that are much, much more complex that would take today's computers months or years to actually encrypt. Will be able to be done in seconds, and it'll be equally as secure. It'll still be a level playing field as far as that's concerned. I'm sure the criminals won't have the quantum computers until long after they're being adopted by the big businesses and stuff. That said, outdated systems would certainly be vulnerable. There's also the question of who would have access to super advanced quantum computers. At first, such machines wouldn't be available to the general public, for example. Bing! That's what I'm saying. All things considered, while quantum computers could very well reach the point at which they would render today's encryption obsolete, there's no guarantee that it would lead to an apocalypse. Ultimately, though, only time will tell. Well, there you go. That's the spirit. Only time will tell. What is a quantum computer? I don't even know for sure. I just know that it's sounds pretty amazing. Whatever the hell it is, it sounds really impressive. But I guess that too, time will tell. So, quantum computing, the way of the future. Can you imagine what like video games will look like when they're being generated and run by quantum computers? Hello, reality? Am I awake or am I in VR? I forgot. It would be weird to tell, I'm sure. But cool, I guess. There you have it. Here's one from Florida, which is an ongoing problem down there. And I don't know. Well, I think it's pretty clear how this problem came to be, but it's another example of people making bad choices and irresponsible pet ownership. But here you go. From unexplained-mysteries.com, gigantic 15-foot Burmese python filmed crossing a road in Florida. That's not where they're supposed to be. Otherwise, they'd be called Florida pythons, not Burmese. It says the enormous snake was recently captured on camera when Everglades visitor Kimberly Clark came across it. Measuring over 15 feet in length, the gargantuan Burmese python ended up making headline news when Clark took video footage of the animal and posted it on social media. Before long, multiple news networks had picked up the story. The species was first introduced in the Everglades in the 80s and has since gained a significant foothold, resulting in a major decline in raccoons, possums, and bobcats, as well as near total disappearance of some rabbit and fox species. Look at that Photoshop. That's not... Come on. Wildlife officials have since spent years attempting to remove the reptiles from the region. Last year, a record-breaking female python weighing in at 13.6 kilograms and measuring 17.7 feet in length was caught after another python, a male, was used to lure it out of its hiding place. Well played. Another, which was thought to measure 18 feet in length, had also been caught in the area 2 years prior. Well, that's a lot of big snakes. And they will eat anything they need to. A 15-foot snake, I don't know. I think it would be big enough. Yeah, I don't know if it would be able to actually, it could take a small person, I guess, maybe even a big person. I don't know. 15 feet is a lot of snake. I had a 6-foot boa, and that was it was amazingly strong. It's hard to imagine the strength in those things, but man, they are incredibly strong and incredibly fast when they want to be. We think of these snakes as being these lumbering, slow things, but when they're on a mission, they go. I mean, they go. It's just amazing. Just amazing. So why are they there? I think it was the old, oh, I can't keep it. It's getting too big. I'll take it out and let it go free. And there comes the problem. I don't think they just showed up. I don't think they snuck in. I think that it was kind of like those Asian carp that are in a lot of the American waterways now that jump out of the water like cruise missiles and take out water skiers. Yeah. Another go free, go be free, and I think it's probably done innocently enough. Like, people love their pets and they think, well, it's warm here, it can survive, just go be free. And maybe another person did that with the opposite gender and they found themselves, and all of a sudden you've got an animal that was never intended for this area. Nature doesn't have any balance for it, so it's has no natural predators and eats everything. So yeah, that's truly unfortunate that has become a problem there. I would be concerned to, even to a degree, just walking around, because I don't know. I've never walked through the wilds of Florida, so I don't know, but I would always have that on my mind that, pythons can drop out of trees and knock you out and then have their way with you, so to speak. And that's absolutely terrifying. So I don't know, whatever you think, but I'm sure it started innocently enough with somebody with good intentions, but it ended up incredibly bad for the environment. So, what do? Can't do nothing about it. I think we literally have like 2 minutes left. So, going to get to one more if it's short. I don't think I can read this one. That's too long. Let's go to this one. Let's see what's going on here. This one's one from the archive. Kind of an interesting story because it's just either it's incredible serendipity or divine intervention. But in any case, it comes from 2009, October 5th, 2009. 5 rupee coin stops bullet headed for heart. A man in India this week was miraculously saved from a bullet fired at his heart by a 5 rupee coin in his wallet that he had stored in his shirt pocket, a habit that he'd been teased about all of his life. Wow, he just had a habit of doing that. In Yash Chopra's Diwar, Amitabh Bachchan was famously saved from a goon's bullet. A goon. Who uses that word anymore? By his coolie badge lodged in his shirt pocket. Real life blended into real, REEL life, blended into real life at a nondescript Kalina neighborhood on Thursday evening when a wallet in a video parlor owner's pocket came between him and certain death. Well, there you go. Good call. All right, so folks, we're going to go to the break quick. We'll be right back with a lot more of the Paranormal Portal. Don't go away. Hey everybody, welcome back. We're into half hour number 2. Colleen, I don't usually hear a lot about local things. I would guess probably one of the best places to look, and this goes for anybody anywhere in the at least in North America, is if you go to the BFRO website. That is one repository of sightings. Sometimes it's not the most current because it relies on people to actually do the reports, but there's other repositories out there as well, but look for any sightings reports. If you're looking for Bigfoot's, Dogman kind of stuff, BFRO is probably not going to have any Dogman stuff, but it's gonna definitely have the Bigfoot sightings. But it's not like I get notified directly of a lot of sightings and such. That's really not what I hear a lot about. I usually hear about people's hauntings and a lot of UFO things here and there, but they're, all around the place. But sure, if there's any that come up in the area that I hear of, sure, I'll put them on Instagram and let people know, or on any of the social media, I guess. But yeah, I don't usually hear about them. Don't know why. I guess I haven't been plugged into that feed of information too much. There's another one. It's New Force in our area that does they do a lot of UFO tracking along with MUFON, and those are 2 sites for UFO stuff if you're looking for any recent reports that are published or people have put out there. Again, with any of this stuff, it's completely incumbent upon the willingness of the experiencer to come forward and say, look, this is what I've seen. And I'm guilty of that too, because even in my own experience, like of seeing the UFO, or even being growled at and believing I came close to a Bigfoot when I was younger, I never did go to one of those repository sites and reported it, but I've shared it here on the show and on interviews that I've been on. When people are, interviewing me, I certainly share all of those things there because, I'm not ashamed or shocked by them. But, I think it's just one of those things that it never occurred to me when I was 14, there was no place to report it to that I knew of. But even when I saw the UFO thing, I thought about the MUFON idea, and I thought, well, I don't know. I didn't still have access to the property and couldn't get back up there because the person who did own it doesn't and hasn't for years now. And so it wasn't like I could take them up and go, I was right here, and they're right there is where I saw it, and this is my experience. I couldn't do that. So, but in any case, yeah. I mean, anybody, if you hear of recent reports and stuff, let me know. I'd love to hear about it. I think that's fantastic information. So, let's see. What was I going to do? Oh yeah, I was going to do this, and I put a link in the chat on YouTube and now on TFR. TFR's got Bam, Gemini, and Roz over there. Hey, Ra, how you doing, brother? Good to see you. Ra Castaldo, host of the Eye of Ra. Great show, and Ra's been a guest on our show a few times, and he's a great guy. He's one of those guys that'll bowl you over with information. He's got more in his head than he'll forget more in his lifetime than I'll ever remember or learn. And he's just one of those guys that can just cite sources, cite information, and just boom. I mean, he's just a force of nature, but a fascinating guy to talk to. If you want to go back in the archives, both on our YouTube show, you'll find Ra has been here, and on our podcast as well. He's been on both, and we had a great time talking. So, what was I talking about? I lose my own train of thought. Oh man, I'm getting old, I think, or just trying to multitask, and I'm really not a multitasker. I'm a monotasker. Like, I do one thing and then I do another thing maybe, and I cycle tasks, one task. Some people can balance 3 things and do great. I'm not one of those people, so I'm sorry if I lose my train of thought from time to time. I'm sure whatever I was going to say was going to be incredibly profound and important, but as I think my dad always said, it must not have been that important. It's like, yeah, well, thanks for that. Thank you for that. Anyway, let's talk about the next part of our show, which is coming up. And this is a segment we've been doing for a while. I really love this segment because it gets a chance, again, another benefit of tying our communities together. We do have a Discord, and I put a link in the YouTube chat. I put a link in the TFR chat, and we'd love to have you guys join if you're not already a member. Oh, thank you, Maggie. Thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. If you're not already a member of the Discord, please get to be a member, because we got some great conversations going on there, and a bunch of fantastic threads of discussions and links people are sharing of different phenomena. It's just been wonderful. So this segment, which is, John had a birthday. Hey, happy birthday, John. I didn't know about that. Happy birthday to you. There is, and they have called in. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to read chat and talk at the same time. Again, I'm monotask. So the Discord community is not only a great discussion of all the different paranormal stuff that we cover, but there's a segment on there, a thread of conversation on there that I call the questions of the week. And it's been a phenomenal addition, because I pose a question before every live show, and the Discord community weighs in on it. Several of the members in there give their thoughts on what's going on, and it's been incredible. And you guys have brought amazing things to the table and amazing ideas to the table, and so thank you for that. And so in order to kind of integrate our community so they're not these little standalones, what I'm doing is covering the questions of the week here on the live shows, because I think it's wonderful, and it's a great discussion point. You have thoughts, Aaron? Well, you should be in the Discord giving them to me. That's what it's there for. Love to hear from you over there if you're not already in there. But again, I'll put the link in the YouTube chat in case you missed it, because I put it in before I really announced what it was. We keep it family oriented here, but there are times when people call in and swear or talk in the chat as adults, so please be parents. Yeah, exactly. Good points. One of the things that I pride myself on is that we do have listeners of all ages out there, so please keep it clean and keep it nice. And we have people in the Discord that are not necessarily adults, so please understand that, things are going to be moderated if you swear or use profanity, or I guess the same thing. But if you use innuendo a lot or inappropriateness, it's going to get moderated out. So please don't do that. Just keep it clean. If you wouldn't say it in church, don't say it here. I don't even know what that means. So for sure. Here we go. This is the Discord question of the week segment. So let's get to this, and we're going to start right now. All right, that's the Discord, and here's the intro. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Discord question of the week segment of our show. This on your screen is the Discord community. This is it. And here you can see I've asked the question of the week, and there's the different discussion threads. If any of you are brand new to Discord and you're not sure what to do, we do have a group, a thread in here on the left side. After you click that link and join, you'll see Discord tutorial, and this will walk you through how to use Discord. And I think that's 99% of the issue, is just know what you're trying to do, and this will tell you how you're doing it. So if you click on that, you get it. Other discussion threads: Bigfoot, Dogman, Ghost, UFO, extraterrestrial experiences, cryptids. There's even a music one in here, which has been kind of cool. Been introduced to a lot of cool new bands and stuff. Strange phenomena is in here as well. But the question of the week that I asked for tonight's show is Saturday's question. Cemeteries and graveyards have always been considered a hot spot for ghost and spirit activity. Why do you think that might be? Okay, so initially I thought, this is a good question, because, a lot of people go to cemeteries to get EVPs, to do investigations and stuff, and they are probably the, most accessible place if you're interested in starting doing some paranormal investigating in ghost and spirit phenomena. Cemeteries, everybody's got cemeteries. And I think you should still make sure to talk to the people that run them before you start hanging out and creeping through there at all hours of the night, because they want to know who's in there and whatever. But I think it's phenomenal, some of the information and experiences that have been pulled out of some of these cemeteries. I think that there's some pretty amazing phenomena going on, and not in all of them necessarily, but I think every one of them has the potential to have paranormal activity in the form of spirit activity or ghost activity. So I just wondered what you guys thought. What do you think this is? Why? And the first one to weigh in was Android Paranormal. He says, I personally can't imagine why a human spirit would be hanging out there. Why would you want to hang out in a grassy field full of other dead bodies? You would not go there to visit. You would not go there to visit the graveside of other loved ones, because then you could likely just visit them where you're at. However, that does not mean it's not haunted. I think they are likely haunted by demons or elementals or some sort of non-human spirit energies. And I'm sure they are likely aware humans think graveyards are spooky, so they purposely stake out there waiting for someone to come prey on during the dark. It's commonly believed these things feed off of energy we give from the emotion fear. So if so, that would be a great place for them to collect some of that energy. And that's actually kind of a really unique viewpoint. I was really surprised by that, because I had never considered that. It's like, maybe it's not the actual spirits of the people, and I'll get into my thoughts in a little bit, because I think sometimes it can be. But what if there are these lower vibrational things that maybe don't have a natural energy source of their own, so they have to be somewhat of a parasite? Well, I don't think it's just fear that they feed off of. I think they can feed off of sadness or pain or agony and those things. That's why I think hospitals and prisons are also such hotspots. So, when people are going there, they're saddened. They're visiting the last site of their loved one's body, and that is it's an emotional situation. And even if it's been a long time, when you go back to the grave of your grandparents or something like that, that sadness is really a part of the experience. So that's a good point. Maybe it is part of the activity, or at least a good portion of it could be those things waiting for people to come in and feel that sadness or separation, or those very painful kind of emotions. So that's a good point. Thanks, Android. Last Light says, what if they hang around graveyards in hopes of being visited? That is one of the purposes of a graveyard, right? Not only is it a final resting place for the departed, but also a place for the living to visit and remember the lost. It certainly could be, especially in the terms of an earthbound spirit. I think if they are maybe not able to move around as freely, I think that there are some earthbound spirits that can't move around at all. I don't know why, but they seem almost tethered to a place, and possibly that place could be their grave, the last place that their body exists in this world. Maybe they're tethered to their remains still, just because they haven't emotionally moved on. But then they would be there when their loved ones visit, and that would be maybe kind of a reprieve of sorts, just to be around those. I don't know that for sure. That is absolutely speculative on my part, but we don't know any of this stuff. That's why everything you guys say is so valuable, because you could be right. You could be absolutely right. So thank you for that thought, Last Light. I appreciate it. Chucky Danger says, perhaps since not all the people seem to cross over to the other side when they die, they might stay attached to where their remains are located. Graveyards just happen to collect these spirits to a gathered location. Yeah, great point. Yeah, it could very well be, especially those people that either can't or choose not to move on. And for whatever reason, they may be very attached to those remains. You're right. Great point. Within said, some people may follow their bodies wherever they're buried. One time I drove past a cemetery where my grandma is buried, and I usually just do a drive-by and holler a greeting out the car window when I don't have time to stop and it's not too late or dark outside to visit. I saw a man locking the entrance exit gate. I stared at him, and he just disappeared. Wow. That's pretty powerful. Was he, well, I'll get into something else about that may be what you saw within. But just give me a minute as we finish these other responses. Wonder Woman says, perhaps an unreleased spirit is remaining with the physical remains, and someone has summoned them through a memory or seance advice. A rest in peace is not just a phrase, it's a prayer. Yeah, that's good advice. Yeah, rest in peace. Sure. And prayer is powerful. Prayer is very powerful. There's an esoteric belief that I've heard since I was a little younger kid, and it's energy follows intention. And that's very true. And a prayer is certainly an intended energy directed at someone. And so, sure, it's a prayer. And maybe just by virtue of saying that, look, rest in peace. I hope you're in peace. I hope you're serene and not in torment. Yeah, that's a powerful thing. What is this? John Lloyd Steff says, because the graveyards and cemeteries used to be visited years ago by their loved ones quite a lot, nowadays they're not visited as much, and the ghosts are restless. Plus, it depends on how much the person died, or how the person died, and also how much the person who was buried was loved in life was as well. Also, people go there to do some shady things, and it makes the cemetery unsettled. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, certainly there are claims that some occultists go into cemeteries to do rituals and stuff, which is, incredibly dark and horrible. Last one is Trace Linnell. How you doing, Trace? Good to see you. Thank you for coming in and answering. I think they are a hot spot because past folks like to check on their bodies, and it's a place people visit, and maybe some just want to socialize. Yeah, I think that's very possible. And, I know we've covered tons of stories throughout the years. One was a mom was driving along a road, and her child was looking out the side window and said, "Mom, why are those kids playing over there?" And the mom looked over where the kid was looking, and it was a cemetery, and there was no kids. But her child could see these children playing in that cemetery area. And I'm sure it's not just a delusion, right? Like, the child was able to see something the mom wasn't. And that's very, very interesting. Now, I have some ideas on this as well. And many of you hit on these ideas are very similar. I think there is, okay, so we are our spirit or soul. We are the soul. That's what you are. You are a soul, in my opinion. This is me speaking what I would write if I was responding to this. So whether you believe in that or not, of course, is your own prerogative. But as a spiritual being, I think when we are in the womb, we are creating this body. This body resonates specifically with us. It's a manifestation of us for the course of our life experience. So I think we are very integrated and intertwined with the very fabric of these bodies. And that's why we often attribute these bodies as us. I mean, it's not just a vehicle we get in like our car. We trade cars several times. We might love a car or hate a car, but we get a car because it serves a purpose. But our bodies become something in which we're operating in every waking moment. And we experience joy, pain, sadness, fear, wonder, and caring and love. And all of these experiences become integrated into these bodies. And so throughout the years that we're alive, we are in this quote unquote temple. And so when our body finally fails, like it just can't subsist anymore, and we're meant to go home or go to the next phase of life, we're still, I think, somehow entangled to these remains. Like, these remains are a part of our manifestation in this world. And so that in and of itself would create, I suppose, almost like a tether. No matter where our spirit is, there's always going to be a resonance to this corporeal form that we took because it was ours. We formed it. We made it. Well, I'm not saying it was just a metaphysical act. It's through the course of biology, but we become so integrated in it in our experience that it really is a part of us and a part of our energetic expression in the world and in our minds and in our lives. So perhaps we are tethered to it. And so maybe we do visit. Maybe some people can't move beyond it if their life ended tragically or died young or any number of reasons their life was taken from them somehow. Perhaps the body is even more of a tether because of that horror, of that sadness, of that regret. And so the spirit stays anchored to the body and then they linger. Or any number of things like that. So that certainly is one thing. Now, what I was getting to within talking about the locking of the gate and the spirit disappearing, there is an ancient belief, very, very old belief, that the first person buried in a cemetery will linger and be the caretaker of that space and will look after, watch over, and will be a sort of sentinel of that space. So when within story, I thought that was very interesting because what if that's what within saw? They saw this caretaker, this guardian spirit of the place, the first person buried. And I don't know what the merit of that belief is, but it is a belief that's out there. And some would also take an animal and put it down and bury it in there as a guardian animal to a graveyard. And so cemetery, graveyard, whatever. You know, I know there's a distinction. Cemetery is usually, I think, attached to a church on church grounds. Father Mike, you'll have to let me know if I'm right about that. Brent, many Christians believe in resurrection of the body at the end of the world, similar to what you're saying about a natural state of separation of body and soul. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Sure. Thank you, Father Mike. I appreciate that input. But Father Mike, is cemetery, am I right? Is cemetery is attached to a church or church grounds, and a graveyard is something that's separate completely? Let me know, or if anybody knows, please let me know. But yeah, I think that's pretty fascinating. So why? Well, maybe for all those reasons you guys said. Maybe there are negative entities that just linger there because they know people are going to come visit and have pain and sadness. Perhaps even in some bodies, there's just the body and spirit never really separate. They just stay lingering together. And for any number of reasons. I'm not saying it always has to be tragedy. Maybe it's just, no, I had more to do in life. I shouldn't be dead. And I think that transitioning is something of an acceptance or a surrender. Like for us to truly transition, to go into the next world, to be with God or the divine or whatever comes next. I know there's many ideas. And what if a person's just not ready? Well, where are they going to go? Maybe some of them go back to where they lived. They don't stick with their body at all. They just go back to their home. Maybe some of them go to a place they loved and they linger there, or any number of reasons. Sometimes next to a church, often nearby. For example, cemetery for my church is a half-mile away. Okay, gotcha. Thank you, Father Mike. I appreciate that. So, great responses. Thank you all for that. I really appreciate that. Rachel says, Paranormal Portal, maybe ghosts in cemeteries are like the stone tape theory, where the bones echo with the auras of lifetime and replay occasionally. Yeah, that's a great point. We covered a story a while ago where somebody lived near a cemetery, and they looked out of their window and saw this old couple, like 2 or 3 of them walking together. It was like 2 women and 1 man. And they just were hobbling along, and they thought, well, that's kind of weird. Why are they out there at like 2 in the morning? Maybe they were, heading for the cemetery the next day and just couldn't sleep, so they came early or whatever. But sat and watched them, and they turned, went into the cemetery gate, and disapparated. They just disappeared. And it's like, wow, maybe they go out for walks. I mean, I don't know. It's an incredible thing. I don't pretend to know it, but it's pretty incredible. Hello, everybody. Hi, Lily. Welcome. Good to see ya. So whatever you think, how pissed would you be Living a life of sin, but because you're the first buried in the cemetery, you're locked there for eternity. Well, good point, Cade. Cade Moya, our good friend from Australia, host and creator of the Believe podcast, a wonderful friend of mine. Good to see you, brother. Thanks for coming in. How'd your call-in show go, by the way? I wish I could stay up that late, but I couldn't. Father Mike says, in gospel story of what the hell is that word? Gerasene, man possessed by legion of demons. He lived amongst tombstones, not sure why. Well, there you go. This has been the Discord question of the week. We'll be right back in just a couple minutes to start hour number 2. Woo! It's getting good.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raging anger pours inside me as their lies keep falling apart. With my silence, I am not a stupid boy. No more breaking me with kindness, just you dance upon my joy. Leading me with empty promise, you're just another fucking mess. Taking off the slice of my sanity, just make sure that you're well fed.
Carol Ann is not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that's different from themselves. Her life force. It is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeists are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
I think you're right. Private Paranormal with Jody and Stacy said, I believe from personal experiences, the ghosts of a cemetery aren't necessarily spirits of those buried there, but they are attracted to the history of the place. Yeah, it could be. That could be. And maybe this idea occurred to me as well. And I don't know. This, again, is wild speculation, but just to carry over from the question of the week, why are cemeteries hotspots and graveyards? Well, what if there's a residual energy, whether it's a biological energy or something that's left over in the bodies, and these lower vibrational entities can then come and siphon that off to sustain themselves? What if? Because I think the lower vibrational entities is another way to say the dark things, in a lot of cases, the dark things, not necessarily exclusively, but there's the higher vibrational light entities, the good things, I think, are connected to the divine per se. Let's just say, to simplify it, that there's a divine connection, and by virtue of that divine connection, there's the plug-in to the universal energy, the infinite source of energy of all things. You're plugged into it. But what if you're a lower vibrational entity and you're not plugged into that, or it's so diluted and corrupted or whatever that it just doesn't subsist? So maybe that's why they become these parasitic things that feed off of things that still have the divine connection. And certainly those bodies may have some bit of energy left in them, and maybe that becomes a food source of some kind, and I don't know. It's just, again, wild speculation, but what if? Aw, thank you, Eliza. Glad you remembered. You remembered. I cracked myself up. But anyway, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for those of you who choose to be members. It does go a long way to help the show, and it's a wonderful way to help support what we're doing here. Cade, yes, we should do a crossover call-in show. That'd be awesome. That would be brilliant. So let me know. Let me know what you got in mind and when you got in mind, and we'll dial it in. We'll make that happen, because that would be a lot of fun. Have both of our audiences able to connect and call in and share ideas, share questions, etc. That'd be brilliant. That'd be a lot of fun. So let's iron that out. That would be great. I love cooperative shows with other shows. I think that's fun, and gives us an opportunity to meet and reach out to listeners that we might not otherwise have access to, or have access to us, because YouTube is a minefield of possibilities, and not meaning that in a negative way. It's just there's millions of channels out there. It's tough to get any kind of attention at all on YouTube, because you're competing literally with thousands or tens of thousands of other people. It's not an easy run. So I think that's wonderful. And I know, Cade, you do an amazing show. So it would be an honor, brother, as always. I remember you were going to have me on your show, I don't know, sometime last fall or something. Something like that. I don't remember the details exactly, but no. I'm always willing, brother. Take care. Thanks for coming in as well. Thank you all for coming in. Let's do some shout outs. If you want to shout out, take a minute and just say hi or something in the YouTube chat if you're on YouTube, and I can look over on TFR and I see Bam and Rock Castaldo are there. Good to see you both. As always, Ra, it's good to see you, brother. Again, much love to you too. I appreciate it. And Bam, as always, brother, you're always holding down the fort over in TFR. I appreciate it. Over in YouTube's, we've got a few people here. Let's see who's here and who's actively chatting. I can't say who's here because, of course, there are many people that just kind of kick back and watch. They watch and they're not into chatting, and that's okay. You don't need to be, but let's see who is here participating. So far, we've got Aaron Heisner. How you doing, Aaron? BLB, so much Jake. Good to see you, brother. Thanks for coming in. And I love you guys' Christmas special. That was so well done. That was awesome. It was just brilliant. Brenda Joe, good to see you. Chucky Danger, welcome back. Welcome back. Chucky's been involved in the Discord and here. David Heidesheimer. I'm sorry if I'm brutalizing that, brother, but I only have a Midwest dialect, so some words are a little hard. Eliza's here. Good to see Eliza. Flyer Tuck is here. Good to see you as well. John Steph. I got to say both last names because there's two Johns. John Stevenson, sorry, and John Temprin is here. Good to see you both. Thank you for coming in. K-Love is here. How you doing, K-Love? Last Light is here. How you doing, Last Light? Lily Pond and Maggie are here. Good to see you guys. Kirsten Leah just popped in. Good to see you, Kirsten. Mrs. Chef Yoda is back. Thank you for coming back. Good to see you. Opal Demetria, good to see you back again as well. And Private Paranormal with Jody and Stacy, wonderful to see you again. I'm not sure if you're Jody or Stacy or both, but welcome to both of you. We've missed you. Rachel Gets It Right is here. Ron the Sage is here. How you doing, Ron? Good to see you again, brother. Trace Linnell. Hi, Trace. It's been a long time. Good to see you back. Vegas Dirt Pusher is back. Good to see you, brother. Wander Woman's here, and Steve Humphrey. Wonderful. You guys make me smile. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of the journey. As always, that's who's chatting. And again, there's more people here, but that's who's talking. So I got to figure out why the hell my chat is all gone suddenly. There it is. Came back. Right. Good. Okay. So since last night, we kind of ran out of time. I was getting to the Cryptid Corner segment of the show, and we just basically had time for one story from Mr. Wes Germer's SasquatchChronicles.com. So I thought we would start the second hour with the Cryptid Corner, and then when we get done, we can hit the little Reddit scrape article to close it out. So we're going to get into some cryptids, some Bigfoots and other stuff here, so hope you guys are ready. And of course, to do that, we're going to start, once we get through the Sasquatch Chronicles one, we'll visit some Phantoms and Monsters, Mr. Lon Strickler's site as well. So first off, we're going to go to SasquatchChronicles.com and visit the blog, where I've pulled up a few articles here that are ready to be explored. And these are listener submissions of Sasquatch Chronicles. And thanks to Wes Germer for letting us use these on the Paranormal Portal. And the first one is from January 11th. I just encourage you guys to go check out Sasquatch Chronicles because, oops. We're done with that. Oops. Again, live and unrehearsed. You get it all raw right here. SasquatchChronicles.com. Here's the blog. And this is from January 11th. The figure was standing still but swaying slightly. A listener writes, I had an encounter back in late spring of 1985. While living in El Paso, Texas. I experienced this encounter along with my brother and two other friends. Yeah, that always helps. My one experience that I had, I'm so glad I wasn't alone because years later I would have been going, God, did I really experience that? Is that really what I saw and felt and heard? But knowing there was someone else there really kept me grounded. So having someone with you really helps a ton. It started with a late afternoon thunderstorm that lasted longer than normal and produced a large amount of storm water. The storm water in this neighborhood gets diverted to a retention basin that was located a couple of streets to the southwest of my home. The thunderstorm subsided in the evening, and my brother and I were riding our bikes over to our friend Jamie's to sleep over. Along the way, we stopped by our friend Gary or Jerry's house. It's Gerrys. I guess Jerry's is most likely, because he was sleeping over as well. We arrived at Jamie's and hung out for a couple hours and then decided we would ride our bikes over to another friend's house to hang out for a little while as well. I don't remember this individual's name, but it doesn't matter because we never made it to his house anyway. While riding our bikes, we approached the stormwater retention basin and noticed how much rainwater ended up in there. Well, none of us had ever seen that much water in the basin before, and it impressed us so much that we pulled our bikes alongside of the street curb just to view it. It was approximately 10 p.m., so it was dark, and the street light in the area really didn't light up the basin, so you could still see the water line from where we were. As we were admiring the view of one of my friends noticed someone directly across the basin from us and said, "Who's that?" The rest of us looked to where he was pointing and saw a figure standing near the water line on that side, approximately 100 yards from us. Some of the houses that back up to that side of the basin had their back porch lights on, so that the area was slightly illuminated, just enough to make out the figure. At this point, we were still thinking it was a person, and we're trying to figure out what he was doing. I shouted, "We see you over there," across the basin, and didn't get a response. We then noticed that the figure was standing still, but swaying slightly to the left and the right, and up and down. None of this was making sense to us, and we were discussing this amongst ourselves. My friend Jamie then shouted, "We're coming over there to kick your butt," which now caused the figure to react. The figure started walking to our right for approximately 20 to 30 feet, and then back up to our left in the same direction along the water line. This continued for a couple of minutes, and it really added to the confusion. We took our eyes off the figure while discussing all of this and attempting to figure it out, and then noticed that the figure was gone. We then diverted our attention over to the right side of the basin, thinking that this individual is now coming over to us, and this would be the quickest route. It was much darker on this side of the basin, so we're straining to find this person. My brother and I both had these cheap pocket flashlights on us, so we broke them out and tried to light up the area, but that didn't help. The next thing I remember is the sound of water moving, not a splash, like water being pushed. The sound was coming from the middle of the basin, which diverted my attention to it. I instantly brought my flashlight down to the water line and saw small ripples of water moving towards me. I then brought the flashlight up, following the ripples, and came to a figure wading in the water. Now, all of this was happening in seconds. I first noticed the chest and two arms. The arms were hair-covered, light brown, and the chest was a lighter brown. You can call it tan. When I brought the flashlight up the body to the head, my brother brought his flashlight up to the head at the same time, and as both of our lights hit the head, we saw eyeshine. The eyeshine was a color that I've never seen before or since. It was a green/gold and brilliant. And all I remember after that was being on my bike and riding as fast as I could back to Jamie's house. My brother and friends were right along the side of me, doing the same. We returned to Jamie's house and put our bikes in his garage and closed the door. We then went inside and very excitedly began telling his mother. I remember her listening to us and telling us to calm down. We finished telling her what we just saw, and she seemed to believe us but wasn't freaking out like we were. We then spent the next couple of hours discussing this amongst ourselves and calming down. This is the abbreviated version of the encounter. I'd be more than happy to give you a more detailed write-up of this to discuss this with you if you prefer. Wow. So it was just like coming right at them. And again, I've wondered, can they understand language? So if this is indeed a Bigfoot, and it sounds like it might have been, can they understand language? Because it was just sitting there swaying until they said, we're going to come over there and get you. And then it started like really pacing. It was just swaying before that. And that seems to be a real common indicator of them getting really agitated. Starts with a swaying like this uncertain movement, like, well, what's going on? Like this, it's just looking and kind of examining. And I don't know if that's a visual thing. It's doing this just because it helps it to dial in where they are and what the distance is and what of that. I imagine it might, but I don't know. But those that comes up all the time with when they get agitated, then they start really, really swaying heavy or starting to pace back and forth. And, you hear plenty of stories like that. Like they wind themselves up. They just get into a frenzy and then they boom, and it might be a bluff charge or it might be, something else, but they're definitely getting mad, like literally getting angry. And so it's kind of a weird phenomena, but it's repeated all the time, the swaying. And then the walking back and forth is like the pacing. And then it was coming for him, I don't know what it was going to do, but it was coming. And that's certainly concerning because you're dealing with something you have no possibility of really understanding. It's just coming. And that is frightening. So don't talk about Don like that. What? Are you talking to me, Eliza? I'm not talking about Don. So I think it's pretty bizarre. But it's a behavior that's reported commonly in these encounter stories with these beings. So very cool story. And then we're going to go to the next one. Again on SasquatchChronicles.com, and this is from January 9th. And it's equally a great title. It is Stalked by Something. A listener writes, I was 15 in Bridgeport, Texas. What? No, this isn't the one. Yeah, okay. I was 15 in Bridgeport, Texas, when I was staying with a friend at her house. It was the fall, early year 2000, 2001. I was staying the weekend with her and her older brother was in town. For the sake of their privacy, I'll name them Jane and John. So her brother John offered to burn us some CDs for music, and that's what we did back in the day. I remember those days. And in order to do that, we had to walk about a half mile or 3/4 of a mile over to their grandparents' house where he had his computer stuff set up to do all that. Well, it was late, about 11 p.m. to midnight, when we decided, okay, let's walk over. There were one of two ways to get there, and one was to take the dirt road around, and the other was to take their walking trail they had made between their houses over the years through the woods and tall grass. Well, that was the shortest route, so we opted to take that. They had made that walkway many times before. Anyway, we started out, and about a quarter of the way there, I could hear something not far in the distance, behind us, to the left-hand side of us. So I stopped and told them to stop and listen. Well, didn't hear anything more. So we kept walking, and a little further on, I could hear it again. So I told them, stop, shh, listen. This time we heard a little rustling and a pop. So at that point, John said, I heard it. We have cows back over that way. Probably just one got out. So we kept walking a bit further, and at this point, we're about halfway to 3/4 of the way to the grandparents' house when we heard loud crunching and heavy, raspy breathing. We all stopped in our tracks to listen. It sounded so close, like I could have reached out and touched it. Well, it could have reached out and touched us, sorry. And I told them maybe we should move off over into the road. So we started to head toward the road, so we had a bit more visual distance rather than walking through on a trail. Once we started toward the road, we could hear what sounded like something following close behind us. We got to the edge of the road and stopped once more to listen, and whatever it was growled at us. Once we heard that, we bolted in full run the rest of the way to their grandparents' house. We hit the back porch and got inside, and we all agreed we were not walking back that night. Oof. That's creepy. Yeah, I don't know what that is. It's shadowing. I mean, obviously, again, this is posturing. It's meant to get people out of an area. It's not meant to hurt them. Because if it was going to hurt them, it would have just taken them. I don't think there's any competition whatsoever between a human being, even running in full fear, and one of these things really trying to get something. I mean, there are visual reports of them being seen running down deer. And I know they're rare reports, but they have been claimed. And there was a report, actually I interviewed Jim Bear King, who was talking to someone he really believed, another researcher, and that person said that he was on a four-wheeler and it had the mirrors on it. He was running around and he noticed in the mirror there was something chasing him. And he said he cracked the throttle and he was looking at the speedometer and watching the mirror. He said that thing kept up with him until he hit about 45 miles an hour, and then he was able to start pulling away from it. But that's a lot of speed for anything bipedal. But he said it was just flying, and 45 miles an hour. Are you kidding me? There's also report when we interviewed Sarah Bignell. We had her on the show, and she had a recording from her show where somebody was driving 50 or 60 miles an hour on a freeway or a highway in Australia, and a Yowie was keeping pace with her. And so, I mean, my God. Could you imagine? So I think if these things wanted to take people, there wouldn't be a damn thing people could do about it. Nothing. Because they would just take them. But they don't. They just seem to intimidate, push, get them out of the area, and then it's over. I don't know. It's a strange story. Strange phenomena for sure, but they don't seem to like us around them. And, I couldn't blame them, I guess, if they want to remain hidden, then, probably keeping people away is the best way to do that. So, very cool story, very creepy. I don't know what that would feel like, but I imagine, because people disappear in the woods. I mean, obviously, David Paulides has made a career out of that. People disappearing in woodlands. So, something's taking them. Maybe it's otherworldly, maybe it's portals, but maybe some of them are cryptids. So, they're going somewhere. Kenneth Davis, I got a bunch of crazy stuff. I'm curious to hear what people think. There seems to be a young blonde-haired girl, 7 to 9, following me and my girls since I visited Spain in the late 80s. Wow. That's weird, Kenneth. You might want to check with, I don't know, maybe a psychic like our own Deb Varner. Get in touch with her. If you choose that, you can certainly do that. Deb, it can be reached via email, and I'm sure she would help you with just some questions like that if you asked her. But you can reach her by emailing purplemysticreader@gmail.com and ask her. But that is kind of weird, Kenneth. If you feel really uncomfortable with that and you feel like something not good is going on, then definitely reach out to Deb, and maybe she can dive into it and give you an idea of what's going on and give you some ideas on how to deal with it. So, again, purplemysticreader@gmail.com. That's having something linger and following you is pretty creepy, whether it's cryptid or spiritual. All right, we're going to go back to Sasquatch. Well, no, we're going to wait till after the break because we're just about at the break. We got about a minute until we dive into the break, and then we're going to be in the last half hour. So if I start reading this, we're going to hit the wall, and that's going to be a mess. So we can't have that. But again, if you're new to the stream, please like the streams. It goes a long way to help us out. Please, if you're watching these videos when they're not live, please leave comments if you wouldn't mind. That helps a bunch because it shows interaction to the algorithm on YouTube, and the interaction is an important part of what's going on. But we'd love to have you be subscribed if you wouldn't mind, and please feel free to share these streams to everybody you know. Because the more the merrier here on the portal. I mean, it's Obviously, with YouTube, it's a numbers game, and I don't need to have a huge show. That's fine. I'm happy with whatever we have. I mean, that's wonderful. I'm absolutely honored every time I do a show that somebody shows up. But it is a numbers game on YouTube, and certainly it would be fun to see how many people might enjoy the show. So if you'd want to help with that, those are some ways that you can help. Obviously, it means a lot to us here, and so we'd appreciate your help, because I don't advertise this show at all. I had done an ad quickly on AdSense just to see if it would drum up any interest, and it drummed up some. Something I may do again, but in the meantime, grassroots is the best kind of growth. Best growth is a referral. So, all right, we'll be right back. One more break, almost 3 minutes. And we'll be right back for the last half hour of the show. Don't go away. Do not go away. John, what the hell? John Stevens says I should become a fashion model. For what? You need big print for that. A big layout. See what I did there? Thank you. I'm here all night. All right. Yeah, no, I don't think modeling is in my future. But that's about 56 issues right now. It's okay. I'm all right with the issues for showing those t-shirts. Yeah. Work it, Brent. Yeah, that was it. That was the only work I can do with it. I can stand up and show you a shirt. I just had comments for those of you that are watching. What the hell is he doing? Somebody saying, what's your shirt say? So I'm just showing my shirt. It's a Deadpool shirt. It says, I have issues. Don't we all? All right. So we got more of the Cryptid Corner coming up here as we're diving into the last half hour of the show already. God, it goes quick. There's no understanding for me. Even, after you doing this show, since 2016? What is that? 2017, 2018, 2019, 21, 2, 3. I'm on the 7th year. Yeah, I almost finished the 7th year of the show. And I think it's in June. No. When did I start? Maybe I did finish the 7th year. Did I? I think, no, I started in June of 2016. So this is the 7th year of the Paranormal Portal. Wow. Time flies. Oh, thank you, Trace. I appreciate that. I appreciate the support. And what Trace is talking about, if any of you are new to the show, you can also help support the show. If you choose, if you want some portal gear, well, by God, we got some for you. And it is, let's see, what is it? Yeah, there we go. I got the link here. And I'm going to put it over on the screen, and you can see what Trace is talking about. She's bought this, and several of you out there have purchased things from here, and thank you so much for that, because that helps out a ton. But if you go to the description of the YouTube show has the link to the site. But for those of you that are not, maybe not engaged in that, if you use the coupon code OurFriends, you save 15% at checkout. Free shipping on your order. Oh, I guess there's another. There's 2 codes. I didn't know that. What the hell? We got a lot of codes going on. I'm not sure what Don's doing. Our friends will give you 15%, but there's a few codes flying up here that maybe Don hasn't updated. Whatever the hell that is will save you free shipping on your order. I'm not going to read out all those things, but if you use that one, you get 25% off your order, which is even better. So use that one, I would say. But here's the site, and you can get Paranormal Portal shirts, different designs. These are by our buddy T-Fetch. He made a few designs. There's the mug. That's my saying at the close of every show. Kind of a little abridged version, but it's the same thing. There's a Paranormal Portal mug. There's a sticker. Here's some Paranormal Portal podcast shirts showing the skeleton and the microphone, holding the microphone. But wait, there's more. There's gators from when the masks and stuff were so prevalent. There's another shirt, another sticker. Looks like that. There's a whole bunch of stuff here that you can do. Hoodies, T-shirts. We can load more and see just what more there is. There's the Black Eyed Kids one, also by T-Fetch. There's the rocker collection that Don made, and the bucket hat as well. Bucket hat, Paranormal Portal. Look at all that sexiness, and you can get the hoodie like that too. But there's hoodies, T-shirts, coffee mugs, stickers, masks if you still have to wear them for whatever reason, or just maybe you want to keep warmer. There's the gators. Those have been used forever for not only pandemic stuff, but for a lot of other reasons. So they're there. But those go a long way to help supporting what we're doing here too. And we really appreciate any of that as well. But yeah, so that's another way to help support the show if you so choose. So thank you, Trace, for checking out and buying a shirt. I'm glad you love it, and there's always more. All right, so where are we at now? Where are we at? Okay, I know where we're at. We're doing the Cryptid Corner, and we're going to go back to Sasquatch Chronicles blog because I got 2 more articles from there, listener stories that were submitted. The next one is coming from January 8th, Sasquatch Chronicles blog. And this is January 8th. An odd experience in Lower Michigan, which Lower Michigan is not quite the hotspot that Northern Michigan is for all these cryptids, but there's plenty of reports coming from Lower Michigan as well. It's pretty intense, even though it's much more agriculture and cities in the southern part. There is still plenty of woodland and wild places. So it says January 8th. A listener writes, we just moved to Mio, M-I-O, from Lower Michigan last year. We were four-wheeling for the first time. We were not far from our cabin and stopped for a break on a county road from the trail. Within a minute of taking our helmets off, we heard what we thought were people, possibly down the trail more. It literally sounded like gibberish for a bit and was coming closer, we could tell. We had no fear at first until we realized it was coming so close. And then it was like a hyena laugh. And we said, quick. Like a hyena laugh. We said, quick. And I then said, calm, quiet to my husband. I don't know what this means. To my husband, let's get out now. That was an instinct I felt. I know now. And it was strange as heck. We put helmets on fast, and I was in front, and I just wanted to get out at a pace, but didn't go crazy fast on purpose, like I could have for fear or whatever. It was next to us, I felt. So we drove quick to an intersection. We stopped and we're like, what the hell? And next there was something already next to us in the forest. And it was like hitting trees so hard. My husband, forgetting where we were, said that was a nail gun and thought we were by houses at the corner. And I said, no, let's go again. And it's just forest at that corner. Then we just went home. Now, I wasn't a believer, but not a non-believer. My husband used to listen to your show alone way before our encounter, but we never ever discussed it. So we definitely started to listen to your show again, since we know that was not anything normal in these woods. We also have some land next to Huron Forest that we have had quite a few more encounters. I will sum the others up shortly now. We never had a literal visual. Strange footprints on our private land with bare feet in the snow. A very horrible smell at our barn. Otherwise, something was yelling to me while up in our barn in night when I was just playing with the coyotes. I thought with howling. This one, I hate to say, we almost had it recorded, but I messed it up trying to get our dog upstairs in the barn to stop barking at it. We had one roar, that huge roar, we say at least 10 times while we were just sitting on our land enjoying a bonfire. This one was so close, and still can't believe it. And the last one is, we're cutting dead trees one day, and I drove back to barn for something, so like 5 acres away from my husband running his saw still. While I was at the barn, I thought he screamed or yelled and got hurt, so I rushed back, but he was fine and chainsawing still. And he said something yelled at him. So we know that was 1-2 in daylight. Yeah, that's strange. Yeah. What do you say to that? I don't know. Sounds like they're in close proximity to a family group of some kind. Very strange, though. Whatever the case is, be careful. All right, next one up is from January 7th from Sasquatch Chronicles blog. And this one is actually an upcoming show, and it may be live by now. What is it, the 14th now? No, it is. Yeah, it's the 14th. God, days are flying by. Get that damn light out of my face. A listener writes, I do want to preface this by saying that from a very early age, I've always had a love of the outdoors. My parents signed me up for Cub Scouts when I became old enough, and that transitioned into Boy Scouts. But even when I wasn't scouting, I would beg my grandpa and dad to bring me camping, hunting, and fishing. Both were very competent and capable outdoorsmen who taught me a lot about the outdoors, setting traps, making makeshift shelters, and starting fires without an available flame are all options. By the time I turned 16, which was when this story takes place, I was camping alone on weekends. My family owns about 2,000 acres of land in Louisiana, and a creek runs through the northernmost tip of the property. There were no access roads to this creek big enough for a car to get to, and portions of it were so grown up that riding any kind of ATV through it is possible, but it's going to be a slow pace. When I'd go solo camping, this is the area I'd be going to. It was secluded and essentially untouched by other humans, but it offered the calmness of the outdoors that I love. One of my favorite spots to camp at the time was in this area. The creek horseshoed around this peninsula-like section of the woods, giving me 3 sides to fish on, and any predators only one real way into my camp. A lot of the times when I would go solo camping for a night or two, I'd leave all my unnecessary items behind and opt for a more basic experience, like I'd leave my tent, sleeping bag, jugs of water, and stuff like that behind and bring a hammock, chlorine dioxide tablets, a collapsible fishing pole, fishing line and tackle, and a ferro rod only. I say all of this now because it'll really help better understand the situation later. Okay, on to the encounter. In the summer of 2009, I had this bright idea that I wanted to really test my skills by camping alone with the most basic of supplies for a full month. Wow, that's ambitious. My only obstacle to this idea was my parents. I asked my mom if I could, and she said, of course. She, of course, said, just ask your dad. So I went to Dad and explained my idea, and after some lengthy compromising, he agreed under the conditions that I brought at least 4 days' worth of emergency food, a weather band radio, a flare gun with at least 2 flares. I had to tell him where I'd be camping, and he got to come check on me every 3 to 4 days so he could tell my mom I was still alive. Wow, that's a lot of trust. I felt that was fair and began packing my bags for the hike to my favorite camping spot. I packed the basics I felt I would need, like my hammock, ferro rod, kindling, trail snacks, water tablets, solo stove, a waterproof tarp, mosquito netting, paracord, and of course, the stuff my dad wouldn't let me leave without. I had plans of leaving at first light in the next morning for this long walk, but that night I was too excited and restless to sleep. I think I got maybe 2 hours of sleep that whole night. The rest of the time was spent watching out my bedroom window for the sun to come up. And as soon as I could see the ground outside my window, I was up, dressed, and out the door. It was at least a 4-hour hike from my house to the designated camping spot, if I went at a snail's pace, but I wanted to enjoy the hike in, so I set a pace that would have me at the campsite by early afternoon. About an hour into the hike, I had to pee really bad, so I walked off trail about 10 feet to relieve myself, and as I walked back to the trail, I saw a large stick lying on the ground that I thought it would make a decent walking stick, so I bent down to pick it up. As I grabbed it, I heard a loud but quick snapping sound and then a rustle of leaves, like something big was running away from me through the woods. I looked in the general direction of the noise but saw nothing, so I assumed it had to be a deer or a hog that got startled by me and took off. I blew it off and began hiking forward towards my campsite. After about an hour I reached my camp, I start to feel slightly hungry and decide it would be okay to take a small break, chew on a granola bar and have some water. So I find a nice shady spot under a beech tree and begin to eat my snack as I looked around the woods to see if I could find any birds or squirrels playing in the trees. But to my surprise, the woods were completely silent. There were no birds chirping, squirrels darting through the trees, or anything other than a light breeze here and there. Barely enough to move the leaves on the trees. I found it odd, but not strange. I had just stopped, so I figured anything in the area was probably waiting to see what I would be doing before it made any noise. I finished my snack and sat for about another 5 minutes. Then this very strong, pungent smell hit me. My first thought was, there's a skunk nearby. because at the time, that was the only animal I could think of in this area that could produce such a horrid smell. I attempted to sit a little longer, but the smell became so overwhelming that I went ahead and started to finish off my hike. As I get within what I felt was 100 yards of my camping spot, I begin scanning around me for potential small game trails, so I kind of have an idea where I might want to set some traps. As I'm looking, I notice a large cypress tree that has a large portion of its bark rubbed off. I played it off as a buck rubbing its horns on the tree, not really paying attention to the fact that the rub mark was over my head by at least 6 inches. I get to my camping spot at around 1 to 2 p.m. I begin setting up. I hang the hammock and mosquito netting, clear out a large enough ring for some fire area, and then begin scrounging around for suitable firewood for the night. I always like having all that stuff settled before I go do anything else because I'll lose track of time and be wandering around in the dark trying to find firewood if I don't. Once the camp is set up and ready to go, I grab my fishing gear and head down to the creek to get a few hours fishing in. Well, I fished for several hours and catch enough for dinner that night, so as the sun is beginning to creep in behind the trees and the woods are starting to darken, I decide it would be a good time to head back to camp and get a fire going. I get the fire going and cut a couple of sticks to hang the fish to cook on. The fish is cooking. I'm facing toward the elbow of the horseshoe, like the creek makes around my campsite. Directly across the creek from me, I hear a branch break and a large splash in the water. I think, a tree branch just fell in the water. But as I'm thinking this, a low but very audible hoo-wee comes from the other direction, the same direction. More like hoo-wee. The sound wasn't anything I've heard before, but being excited about the camping trip I was getting to take and really being lost in that happiness, I played it off as being a bullfrog and went on about my business. But it wasn't until maybe 30 to 45 seconds after that sound that I heard what sounded like someone tapping a wooden yardstick against a tree. It was like a soft knock followed by a second one. And then another soft knock was like, yeah, okay, it's just the wind causing the trees to sway. They're just popping from the movement. I was able to put it all in the back of my mind and pass it off as nonsense stuff, long enough to eat and get settled by the fire. The year before this, Les Stroud book, Survive, had come out, and I will admit I was slightly addicted to the book. I read it cover to cover at least 4 times between first getting it as a Christmas gift and this camping trip. And since I was so intrigued by the book, I brought it and a notepad with me so I could read it and jot down notes at night while I was winding down. I'm about 10 to 15 minutes into reading this book when an ear-piercing scream echoes from the way off in the distance. It sounded like it was at least 3 or 4 miles away. It sounded like a woman being murdered in the woods. It startled me a good bit, and I was pretty focused on the book and note-taking, but I remembered that Grandpa and Dad always talked about that there were being panthers that would wander through this area every now and again. And they would stay away from the campsite as long as there was some source of light, like a fire. So I just grabbed a few more pieces of wood and threw them on the fire and went back to reading the book. About 5 minutes later, the scream happened again, but this time it sounded way closer, at least 2 miles, if not closer. And I remember sitting and thinking, okay, the panthers are coming this way, but it sounds like they're making ground pretty quickly. Maybe it was closer before, but the echo through the trees made it sound further away than it was. Either way, it probably won't bother me once it sees the fire. After the second scream, the rest of the night was pretty calm. I turned in early after the long hike in. I was pretty tired. Left the fire burning just in case the panther managed to wander close enough that it wouldn't walk directly into my camp. I woke up about 15 minutes before the sun came up, put on a few more pieces of wood on the fire, and grabbed some beef jerky I had bought for breakfast. As I'm sitting by the fire, slowly waking up, I begin to notice what sounds like heavy breathing, like someone is breathing super forcefully out of their nose. I know deer do this when they sense danger from a distance, and I assume it's figured out that I'm danger and it's blowing at me. I just kind of blow it off. By the time I finish my breakfast, the sun is up enough that I can see well enough to make it back down the creek and splash some water on the fire to kind of help me wake up some more, or water on my face rather. I know I'm low on firewood and figure it would be a good idea to spend an hour or so collecting a decent stockpile before setting off to do that. But as I'm doing it, I start smelling the same pungent odor I smelled the day before on my hike in. And I mumble jokingly, the skunks are following me. I continue to collect the firewood, but slowly the feeling of being watched begins to come over me. Now, like all of a sudden, I felt like I was being watched. Like at first I felt like something was watching me, and then I kind of felt like I was being watched by something that was definitely watching me, and I began to scan around to see if I could see someone or something watching me, but I couldn't see anything but trees. I go back to collecting firewood and try to put it in the back of my head, but the longer the feeling is there, the more it's replaced by this overwhelming sense of fear and dread. Like I shouldn't be here right now and should probably leave, but in my head I'm talking to myself down as I'm overthinking the situation, saying there's nothing out here that I haven't already seen before, and I'll be all right if I just finish collecting firewood and can walk to the bank of the creek for a ways and clear your mind. Oof, am I going to get done? Once I was convinced I had enough firewood to sustain me for a day or two, I walked northward along the bank of the creek, just taking in the woods around me. I get to about a mile from camp and begin hearing a grunting sound coming from ahead of me. Thinking it's a wild boar and not really wanting to face a pissed off pig with razor sharp teeth, I turn around and head back in the direction of the camp, but in a more western direction. So as I'm walking, I'm kind of paralleling camp at an angle and will eventually cross the path I took walking into the camping area. As I'm getting closer to camp, I'm scanning the ground again for more small game signs because I still have it in my mind to set a couple of traps. And I do see several rabbit and raccoon tracks, but I also begin seeing what I can only describe as ball prints. It looked as if someone was taking something about the size of a billiards ball and slightly indenting the ground with it every 7 to 8 feet in a straight line. I looked at the track and followed it in the direction I thought it came from and the direction I thought it was going, and I soon realized it was either going toward or coming from the area where my camp was set up. So I began following the track towards my camp and see how close whatever or whoever it was had gotten, and then I reached the point where the tracks kind of stopped. It was more than a little surprised to find they stopped about 50 yards from where my campfire was because I could clearly see the campfire. I became more concerned about the feeling of being watched. There was nothing major blocking my view of the fire. The hammock was a little harder to see, but you could see it if you cranked your neck just slightly to the left. After discovery of the tracks and how they stopped within distance from my camp, and that I could have easily seen by whoever it was, or whatever it was, I became a little more on edge. After all the years out here with my grandpa and dad, it wasn't something I'd seen, and I didn't know how concerned I should be about finding these tracks. I spent the rest of my day near the camp. Oof, this is going to be too close. Not really venturing out except to do a little fishing and try to clear my head and collect water to purify for drinking. I didn't hear anything throughout the day, but would still get little whiffs of pungent odor, and every so often I would get nervous, like I was still being watched. I tried pretty hard to keep it all in the back of my head and rationalizing it as me overreacting to being alone in the woods, but it still had me nervous. Oh man, I'm never going to finish this. I'm going to have to put a link in the chats, guys. Sorry. This is a really long story. I had no idea it was this long. But I'm never going to make it in another minute and a half. So there's just a lot going on here. So I'm going to put the link in there. This is to the actual article that I've been reading to you. I do apologize because I hate to leave a story not finished, but there's a lot going on here. And the other good part is it's going to be an episode. I don't know. Maybe I can try to read it on the Wednesday show when we don't have commercial breaks and stuff and just cut it from beginning to end. I'll probably do that on next Wednesday's show. I'll leave it open, but if anybody wants to finish reading it for now, there's the link. It's in the YouTube chat. It's in the TFR chat, and so it's available for any of you that want to check it out. I just couldn't do it in time. I had no idea. I knew it was a listener-submitted story, but I didn't look at how long it is. So I think I'll reread that next Wednesday's show, but any of you that are listening that want to check it out now, by all means, go ahead. I hate cliffhangers myself. I hate to be continueds, and I hate to not finish a story, but that was not my best planning. Again, you get to see it all live and in real time, because I had no idea it was that long. Oops. What a great story, though. This person is really bringing you into the experience. And I think that that's the amazing part, is like, you can just, I'm picturing all this in my mind as I'm reading. It's like, oof, what would that be like? I mean, this is a 16-year-old kid, so he's out there alone and then having these weird experiences. I would have packed it up long before, but that's going to wrap it up for us tonight, everybody. Remember, we love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. Love you guys. We'll see you next Wednesday for the next live show. Check out the podcast between now and then, though. Got a good one coming out on Monday. You're going to like it. All right, guys. Good night.